Good evening. Welcome to the discussion session on models of distance education curriculum transaction. As you know, curriculum is a very familiar word, and every day we hear about this particular word curriculum in school, in college, university system, and as well as in the national policy on education. As well, we also hear about this word when we talk of curriculum reform, curriculum planning, curriculum evaluation, and curriculum framework. You must have also heard of curriculum framework, that is National Curriculum Framework 2005. So every day and every moment in school system or teaching learning system, we talk about curriculum. But what is the meaning of curriculum? In what way it is important for a teacher, for a administrator, for a planner, and in what way this curriculum is transacted in conventional or traditional education system as well as in distance education system. So in this discussion session, we will discuss about the meaning of curriculum, what are the different broad features of curriculum, how curriculum, what are the different principles followed to develop a curriculum, and particularly we will discuss about curriculum in distance learning system. And in that context, we will talk about how curriculum is transacted in different models of distance education. As you know, distance education has evolved right from its first model, that is correspondence model, to flexible distance learning model. So at different stages of this development, there are different strategies which have been followed by distance learning systems to transact curriculum. To discuss all these, we have today Professor C.R.K. Murthy from STRIDE, IGNOU. Professor Murthy is well known for his research, understanding, and thinking in the field of distance education, and he has devoted almost most of his academic career in distance learning system, particularly in researching distance learning aspects. Professor Murthy will start with the definition of curriculum as well as will try to explain how curriculum is defined and understood. And after that, he will discuss about how curriculum is transacted in distance learning system. Let us start our discussion with the understanding of curriculum by Professor Murthy. Professor Murthy, please.
Thank you, Professor Das. Good evening, friends. Welcome to this session. As Professor Das mentioned, the title of the session is Models of Distance Education and Curriculum Transaction. There's a very broad title which we kept it. What we do is we touch upon what is the meaning of curriculum, particularly for the learners. It is not for the experts, immediate experts. They know that what is the meaning of the curriculum, but the learners who are going through the program, so naturally they have to know the basic meaning, and then what are the various principles involved. Of course, each one of us must be knowing it. Many educators and many experts define the curriculum in a different ways. Some people say that it is a plan, somebody says it is a total environment of total experiences a learner undergoes in the school and beyond the school. And of course, quite a few colleagues call it curriculum is nothing but politics. I think that's a very well accepted approach also. People believe it. Curriculum is nothing but politics, or the politics of curriculum. Quite a few ways of interpretation of those things. But anyhow, we will not enter into that thing. Particularly by taking a very established discipline, we will look into that, what extent the traditional systems curriculum definitions and the principles, what extent they are meeting that one, vis-a-vis the distance education system, what extent we are doing it, or to what extent distance education curriculum models are helping or not helping. I think that should be the canvas for that. Friends, as I said it, curriculum is derived from the Latin word curricere. The meaning is that to run. to run or to race. So what is run? It's a runway. A curriculum is a runway on which you will be going through to achieve a goal. The goal is set by you. So that's how it is a runway. If you apply that runway in the context of educational programs, naturally you have educational program and you have a goal. To achieve that, you are having a curriculum. That's how to put it in a very simple form. Naturally, as I said, many educationists and many experts defined curriculum in different ways, but ultimately the crux is the same. What they say, it is a plan to come out with a product at the end of the implementation of that plan. If you call it as a means and to achieve an end of a objective of these things, and that's how the curriculum is. You can call it as a plan, you can call it as a means of to achieve an end, whatever way you can put it. Particularly the interrelation between educational program and curriculum is very closely associated. Any education program without having a curricular, without having a plan, naturally no question of achieving the objectives whatever you set as a educationist in that way. With that broader meaning of curriculum, let us look at the definition given by the Secondary Education Commission report, which is a very popular the definition quoted by the educationists, not only at the school level, even at the higher education and the training context also they generally take it, because it's very comprehensive. As I could not use the PowerPoint presentation, I will try to read it and then we will have a discussion to the last. Curriculum does not mean only the academic subjects traditionally taught in the school, but includes the totality of experiences that pupil receives through manifold activities that go on in the school, in the classroom, in the library, laboratory, workshop, playground, and in the numerous informal contacts between the teachers and pupils in this sense. The whole life of the school becomes the curriculum, which can touch the life of the students at all points and help in the evolution of balanced personality. I think that's a very comprehensive definition. It is not only the syllabus or it is only the content that is a part, but along with that, any experience a student undergoes within the school, whether it is in the classroom, whether it is in the playground, whether it is in the workshop, even interaction between the teacher and students, and interaction among the students, and I think total environment of the school. I think I generally, Professor Das, goes in that way. The school environment even stretches to the home also. When the student goes back to home, all the time he's thinking about what happened in the school. So that's how though it is not explicitly mentioned in the definition, I see that the school environment encompasses the home also. I think you agree with that. So in that way, it's environment at school, environment at home. What are the experiences gone through by a learner is a part of the curricular experiences. I think.
Yes, it's a nice explanation given by Professor Murthy about curriculum. Starting with that derivation of curriculum word with curry and how this word is used as a runway to achieve certain goals. Always any curriculum, whether it's a school curriculum, college curriculum, university curriculum, it is always designed towards achievement of certain goals set by you, the predetermined goals set by the learning organization. So, in that sense, curriculum, the purpose of curriculum is pretty clear. But while quoting this definition of curriculum given by Education Commission 64-66, popularly known as Kothari Commission, there are 2-3 phrases used in that definition. For example, this totality of experiences.
Totality of experiences.
It's a very important phrase in that definition, totality of experiences. When a child enters the school system or when a student is in a college system or university system, he or she is gaining n number of experiences. They may be inside the classroom, they may be outside the classroom. They may be interaction with their peers, they may be interaction with the teachers, with the headmaster, with the principal, with the staff members, or as you have rightly said, this interaction may be beyond the school boundaries or the four walls of the classroom. So all these experiences which a child gets throughout the school period, that constitutes the curriculum. And another phrase is very important, towards the evolution of balanced personality. Always any kind of curriculum, whenever it is designed or planned, it always aims at evolving the child towards a balanced personality. What is meant by balanced personality? Balanced personality means all-round development of the child. When we talk of all-round of the development of the child or balanced personality, it means physical, mental, emotional, spiritual and psychic. So when all these, even also social. So when a child develops in all these aspects equally, I stress upon equally, then only he or she can be called a balanced personality. So very beautifully defined that how curriculum, what is the meaning of curriculum, and what is the purpose of curriculum, what does curriculum aim at, and once we have very good understanding of the word curriculum, let us come to the next discussion.
I think, Professor Das, I want to, we will discuss this, what extent these components mentioned in the definition are really planned, executed by the curriculum framers at various levels. That's when we talk about that, what are the delimitations of our own curriculum, I think we'll talk. But certainly any curriculum expert or any planner who is sitting in the curricular board, whether it is a school or higher education, even if it touches the 50% of these components, I think that should really aim at the balanced personality. If I don't address the 50% and aiming at that balanced personality, I don't think fault is the student, fault is the me or you as a curricular framer of this thing. I think deriving from the definition and our experiences with handling that one, there are the quite a few major principles involved in the curriculum construction. Whether as I said it, at the school level or the college level or the university level, any curricular formulation or development exercise should keep in the main focus what for the curriculum you are doing. It is a learner. So naturally, first principle of the curriculum construction is learner-centeredness. What extent it is that one. Of course, the moment whenever we talk about the distance education, first phrase we use is our system is learner-centered. Focus. So naturally, what extent it is done in case of conventional system, I think one has to see that. And the second principle, what we always mention is the community-centeredness. Of course, this is a very, very broad principle, the moment to even to look or to hear that type of thing. What extent your curricular exercises, developmental exercise of curriculum at any level is really taking the needs of the community where your school or your the educational system is involved. But certainly, when we talk about the distance education models, we'll see that one, what extent distance education system is catering to the community needs or taking cognizance of their needs in your exercise. And the next principle in the curriculum construction one has to keep in mind is the activity-centeredness. Okay, if you want to make it the total curricular exercise examination oriented, I think your effort is less. No problem. You give a list and then ask the teachers to execute over a period of time. If you want to really make it as application oriented or activity based, naturally curricular experts who are sitting in the curricular development boards has to see that how to build those the activity based learning or activity inclusiveness or activity centered. You know that how many teachers know that what is the activity-centered teaching as such. Otherwise, what happens as a teacher? Okay, institution has given me the list of syllabus contents. I will go and complete that. Whether I do it activity-centered or whether I do it at the lecture method, nobody is bothered about it. So the construction, even the curriculum framers itself should see that what extent this can be, because the same curriculum distributed across the institutions, somebody may be doing it activity centered, but other school are not doing, other institution is not doing it. So then what is the implication of that one? So that how one has to see that. And the principle of variety. Here the principle of variety means the assumption behind the principle of variety is your learners are having the diverse needs. As you call sometimes your bright learners, your average learners, your below average, individual differences, what extent you are catering to them? Are your curriculum is really addressing to that one? And that, of course, this point we generally talk about the distance education exercises, curricular, and because ours is much more heterogeneous than the traditional classroom. I think that is the, so naturally when you are addressing the much more heterogeneous and diverse clientele group in the distance education system, actually at every step we think that what extent we meet the diverse needs of the heterogeneous group. That's where the principle of variety has to be kept in mind by the curriculum developers. And then the principle of creativity. I think ultimately, so as I said it in the beginning, your whole curriculum exercise is toward the book examination oriented and bookish. Naturally the scope for creativity is less. Unless you intersperse that the curricular exercise, what you are doing with activities and many more things which will lead, which will make a learner, which will make a student to think and creatively on his own and apply whatever the things. I think that's the principle of creativity has to be kept in mind by the curriculum framers. And the principle of flexibility, very, very important one. I think if anybody asks the distance education, what is the basic philosophy is, I think it is the flexibility and openness, what we call it. What extent the flexibility principle is involved in the curriculum exercises of the any level, whether it is school or the college level, one has to see that one. And the principle of balance. All the components, when you are addressing it, I think maybe because I like a particular component, I tend to emphasize more, and the other components also, naturally the balance of those things. Okay, I am more keen on the activities and application oriented part, and the theoretical component I may bring, which should not be the case. That's where the question of principle of balance.
Basically, when we are talking of principle of balance, there should be a balance between scholastic or cognitive activities and non-scholastic or non-cognitive activities. Scholastic, yes. So that's why you must have heard of curricular and co-curricular or extracurricular activities. Curricular is, in essence means activities which are purely academic in nature, and co-curricular and extracurricular, they are more non-academic nature, but they are equally important for a balanced curriculum.
When you are aiming at the balanced personality, I think there are teachers who feel that. I think spending time on the co-curricular thing will be wasting their time, so that give it the less importance. I think that will. And then ultimately one more principle, there are many more, I think I have listed only the major ones, and the principle of utility. Ultimately the curriculum is aiming at what? It's only that the theoretical component where the student will be able to master that one, or relevance of that theoretical component to day-to-day life, or wherever he goes it later, is he in a position to apply those things up? I think that's where the utility of the total, and of course the relevance of the education system in that way, broader point. So I thought that these are the principles as a student one should keep in mind, and if you open any textbook on the curriculum exercise, you will find these things and many more of these things. Keeping the definition what we discussed and major principles of the curriculum construction exercise, and then you look at this vis-a-vis the traditional conventional systems, if you put it these things one on the other, you can find out the mismatching or maybe the limitations when it is implemented or executed. I think I have listed few of those things. I think we can have a discussion on that one. Basically, as I said it, maybe Professor Das and other colleagues may accept or may not accept it. I think most of the curricular exercises is visualized in a narrow sense. I think narrow sense. When you visualize it in a narrow sense and asking for a balanced personality, these two things won't go together. I think that's a narrow. As a curricular framer involved in an expert, I think unless you open it up, the total exercise, by taking the school environment as a broader thing and linking the school environment to the child environment at home, I think that exercise has to be seen in a very broader way, rather than, okay, from the examination point of view, these are the syllabus to be covered and this is the time frame is to be covered. I don't think that that exercise will. That's how the narrowly conceived is the many exercise of the conventional system. I am not pinpointing out the one school level or the higher education level. The weakness across the curriculum. Of course, many institutions and many universities are revising their curriculums, which are not, which could not be done for decades, quite a few decades, I think, but they are doing it to make it more what we talked about, the relevance, and then open it up the curriculum. Maybe the increasing competition among the institutions are forcing them to rethink, relook at the curriculum as an exercise of that. You want to say something?
No, but what I think that these limitations what you are talking of, they are not specific to any system. Even it's depend totally
across the
levels across the system. It totally depends upon the institution. If the institution is not opening up and is not prone to curriculum revision. And is not prone to making the curriculum updated. Then perhaps the curriculum will have its limited.
Because we keep going to the various institutions for the training programs and the organization of that one, and we meet quite a senior teacher. Then we know that the senior teachers must be sitting in the curricular development boards with experience. This thing we ask, sir, how many times you revised it? Professor Murthy don't ask those things, because there are many institutions who could not revise the syllabus for years together, and then what we are expecting to achieve the goals and developing the balance of personality, I think. Of course they accept it, but now things are changing. I think we should be optimistic, and quite a few institutions, whether it is a school level, of course school level it is a national exercise, as you started in the beginning itself, the national
curriculum
framework of this thing. So there is an exercise of this thing. I think that is needed. Periodically that is needed, particularly when it comes to, we are talking more concerned with the higher education system, and higher education system, it is not one particular curriculum across the nation, it is each university will have its own. That's where the question is, how frequently you modify, keeping the changes in the field, and then across the parity, across the institutions, that has to be kept. And of course, we already touched the second major drawback is it's a bookish and examination orientation is the focus, which should not be the case, and rigidity. I think that's what the principle of flexibility and the rigidity, because if you don't want to include too many things, because as a expert sitting in the curriculum development boards feel that the moment you open it up, okay, all these things cannot be done. Oh, so many activities cannot be done. Co-curricular things, higher education is not required. So there's a fixed notions. This notion is nothing but a rigidity in the mindset and the approach. Otherwise, what's not happening in that one? It's happening at not only the school level, even higher education level. You go to the online courses, what you see that many components, whether it is audio program, video program, integrated into multimedia, with an activities it's done. But that is an open mind. If you want to do that, the same thing can be done even in the face-to-face conventional system. And rigidity is the main drawback of the so far, and not responsive to the changing conditions we have already done, and lack of a frequent revision. I think that's another important point. We have done that one. After talking a very detailed these things.
But now the question, you have nicely presented the definition and meaning of curriculum and the principles to be followed while developing or planning a curriculum. Then there of course limitations are there in most of the time curriculum developer or planner, they are not aware of the limitations. So that's why perhaps we face different types of difficulties. But the question is that once the curriculum is planned, for example, now we are talking the present discussion session is on curriculum transaction in distance learning system. Once the curriculum is in place, the most challenging task is to how to successfully transact that same curriculum in order to achieve the predetermined goals or towards achievement of a balanced personality as opined by Kothari Commission. So now let us discuss, focus on that how curriculum is being transacted in different models of distance education.
I think that's where so far we both talked about the limitations of the curricular exercises and the higher education in general, that thing. What is the distance education system we are talking about? Of course, we say that we conduct the needs surveys so that we identify the needs of the heterogeneous groups, and then naturally our focus in each and every component of the distance education is learner-centeredness, because teacher and student are never met, unlike in the classroom system where the teacher can take care of quite a few things, but that is not possible. So when you talk about the learner-centeredness, what extent you are really translating that phrase of learner-centeredness in plan and execution. I think that's how I see that one. And the flexibility, of course, flexibility has again it is a limitation. I think if I want to stretch beyond my capacity, I think the flexibility will create a problem to you. Of course, but within that scope, within the capability, within the potentiality of your this thing, what extent one can be flexible. I think that distance education system, it's not only IGNOU, in many other institutions, India has a large network of institutions, distance education institutions. They are trying to do within their limitations to be flexible in starting from the curricular development and the implementation. And of course, the other major component, multimedia instructional strategy, many media which we use. Of course, the print is the main medium, but still supplemented, complemented by the audio program, video program, face-to-face sessions, counseling sessions, teleconferencing which we are doing now, and many more things to meet the whatever the various components we are talking about. Of course, self-learning. By all this media when I am using it is, my learner, as a distance learner, has to learn on his own. What extent my exercise will lead to or make a learner to learn on his own, on her own. And then a continuous evaluation is another important thing. It's not only the, okay, at times we also face that examination-oriented student is not following it. We can't help it, few. But majority of the students, and the moment I make the continuous evaluation or assignment preparation is a compulsory component, which is the case with case of IGNOU and few other institutions, a student is bound to go through the material.
That's true.
Well, it's not only examination point of view, that's how we can say a little difference to the curricular exercises done elsewhere in the conventional systems and the distance education system. So that he is bound to read, he is bound to understand, to prepare the assignment. Of course, in the process he may be, by hearting or that mugging up or all those things will be there. But certainly we are opening up the learner's mind by making him to prepare the assignments or continue under the continuous evaluation
So
scheme.
one thing that when you talk of distance education system and this curriculum development process and planning and development process of curriculum, the major strength of distance learning curriculum planning and development process is lies in its capacity to address flexibility and then adopting a multimedia approach to curriculum planning, development and transaction. Perhaps now we will be talking of about that how curriculum is transacted in distance learning system with a multimedia or multiple media approach.
Where I think that's what is the, I think Australians are very popular to use this what is this tyranny of distance. I think this was the slogan in 60s, late 60s. I think I'm not able to get his name, Australian. He's written a book titled Tyranny of Distance. To overcome the tyranny of distance, I think they found it, alternative is, of course, Australia is such a big country with a difficult terrain. When the distance education started, it was the popular, one of the pioneers of the distance education system. But over a period of time, when the technologies are emerging and are entering into the field, the tyranny of distance should overcome that one. I think that's how the various multimedia or the various technologies are used to overcome the distance. And now they say that, of course, it is no more a tyranny of a distance in the case of when I use the many technologies. I think that's how that one. And as you rightly said that, I think when you use many media as an instructional strategy in the curricular exercises, I know that what I am involving, and each component is aimed at to achieve certain goals. I think that's how. Of course, as you know that majority of the institutions, distance education institutions in Asian countries and African developed third world countries, print is the main medium. I think though we have the technological facilities available, we could not make it as a really integrating those components into that one. The moment you talk about the integration of those things, though IGNOU has infrastructure, the moment you make it integration, and you have to see that each student have the access to those things, each student is in a position, and without seeing that when you make it integrate, and from institution side it is perfect, but the student side it will be at the, when we are talking about the models of distance education, this point has a relevance at each stage of the, each model. I think that's, of course, as you said it, the flexibility, yes, that's more important. When we ask the curriculum experts, when they say it is, what extent you can be flexible? And what extent I can minimize my rigidity. I think that's basically the important thing. And from there, we talked about the distance education, what is the strengths. In a very brief time, we talked about that. Keeping those strengths, and the models of distance education. What is, of course, James Taylor, again a very reputed Australian distance educator. We have seen the evolution of distance education from the correspondence model, which they have the very strong correspondence system in Australia, and after that the distance education, flexible learning with the technology-based learning, and they have all stages. Unlike India, I don't think we may be going through that various stages.
But I think, Professor Murthy, we have also passed through the same stages.
Yeah,
what this.
But they reach
okay. But even in distance education contest in India, we also started with the correspondence model, and so let us start with the first model, correspondence model.
James Taylor.
You can also highlight that what is the time period when this model really emerged on Indian scene.
Indian scene. We can talk about the Indian scene.
Then what are the different
I think,
types
of course, as I said, it's James Taylor has written a very comprehensively on these models. Of course, he talked about the tyranny of distance and tyranny of proximity and tyranny of the utility. Ultimately, all those things they talked about it, and he has seen that the models of distance education and comparing that with associated technologies. I think that's basically the thing is that. So in his, he called it as the generations. Rather than, he called it as the models and he called it as generations of distance education. I think computer language, generally that is the one used, the generation, first generation computer, second generation, third generation. He applied, rather borrowed the term to explain the models of distance education. Of course, the first model is the correspondence model, where the students are enrolled in a different programs, and the print is the only one at that point of time. That's how it is visualized, that model is associated, and no further support in terms of a student support or any other media components are involved. So it's exclusively the print based. When you apply this model, where we have passed through it, is for the first correspondence course institution in Indian scenario, 1962, the University of Delhi, with the first institution. I think even it was not the print. In their case, it was the print. That's why it is written as a print based. But I think we use what you call cycle style material, stencil cutting and the cycle style, and even not xeroxing. Xeroxing is a much later development. So that is the first model in 62, and then followed by many other correspondence institutions which came 70s and 80s, and followed the same the cycle style material, and we used to other colleagues used to call that, it is not cycle style material. You say that the senior teachers used to prepare the notes, and that notes is converted into the cycle style material. They are provided to the students. Of course, it is a lighter weight, but I think there are few institutions who did a good job within the limitation of that one. Of course, no further support is given. So that is the drawback of that model is.
But there was some kind of personal contact,
which is optional in many of the cases. Okay. Later they made it as a compulsory, but large extent programs it's optional, and the students come. And what is the personal contact program? You have seen, you have attended as an expert. What is that? 300 people in a room. What personal contact program you are talking about?
But in principle, it was part of that.
It was a part of that strategy. So of course, a major thing is the material. Student is enrolled in a program, given some material, and then some sort of a contract. That's all. So from there, the second generation or the second model he talks about is the multimedia model, or call it as a distance education, a birth of distance education, or a really distance education model. We call it as multimedia because it is this curricular exercise of this generation is gone beyond the print material. Used quite a few other media like audio programs or video programs, and even a computer-based learning to some extent, interactive video discs. All this put together, you can see that it has gone beyond this. Not only the media and the support services they plan for that one. Support services, not in the fashion of the contact programs, even a fixed counseling sessions, particularly when we talk about Indian scenario, it is a few directorates. I don't think that they have the regular counseling sessions like the open universities. The first open university in 1982 in the Indian case is Andhra Pradesh Open University. Of course, IGNOU came 3 years later in 1985. And then IGNOU from the day one itself is the print media supported by audio programs, video programs, and counseling sessions, which is optional in nature again. But students who are interested do come and interact with the counselor. So that is a model. You can see the basic difference between the first model, correspondence Z. What is the real, when you are talking about the many components in the curricular exercise, I think that is the basic difference between the one and this model. And Taylor switches to the next model, or the third generation he calls it, is the tele-learning model. From the print-based exercise and supplemented or complemented by the various other media, he is switching over to the tele-learning model, because the technologies by that time reach that, and they have the accessibility, and then the institution can talk to the students on audio conferencing, audio teleconferencing, video teleconferencing, and broadcast, TV and radio broadcast, and you can see that. From the fixed media to the teleconferencing mode and tele-learning mode, I think it's a very, very advanced in that sense. Naturally, okay, they also use the print material. It is not that they have discarded the print, but the enriched the...
These are additional
technologies, and in some of the cases, they made that as even a compulsory technology also. Depending on the program, maybe, depending on the courses. If not for all the courses, for the few courses they made it compulsory. I think if you compare the third generation of tele-learning, what James Taylor described, that if Indian scenario, I think very few institutions can say that, except maybe the IGNOU and one or two state open universities, where they have the audio conferencing. I think we had a limited scale, we used to use that one. Of course, the video conferencing we started in 1993, and with the help of space, ISRO, I think that is how we started. And then of course what is happening now is the teleconferencing exercise with the help of EduSat and all these things. Is that one we can compare? Of course we have the television programs, we have the radio broadcast. You can see that IGNOU, along with the second generation of the print and multimedia packages, and we are switching over, or rather than we are mixing the both, the second generation and the third generation.
But here one thing which comes to my mind, that curriculum transaction, when we talk of distance learning system, curriculum transaction is largely mediated by technologies. And
that's what I started with. The tyranny of distance, I want to overcome that.
But another message, what we can perhaps discuss or think over, and because of the development of technologies and then influencing distance learning system, now one major outcome which has come out of this entire process, that it is gradually going to influence traditional conventional education system. That what I very well foresee, that in future perhaps conventional education system will also be highly influenced by this emerging technology.
I think it's already started, Professor Das. I think what's happening is flexibility which we are using as a core philosophy of distance education system, many conventional systems started using it. You see the difference. And then many conventional systems are started using the online courses, online support to the face-to-face. Look at that, they are using that one. And then what is that? Convergence, what we are talking is naturally the mixing the two things. And I think maybe after 5 years you can see that you cannot make a distinction between these two systems.
So that's why I believe that the major contribution of distance learning system is in this sense that gradually it is redefining the concept of education and the transaction of educational experiences. That is the greatest contribution of distance learning system. That I tell whenever I go anywhere.
I think you are absolutely right.
This is the single most important contribution of distance learning towards redefining the concept of education and educational operations.
If you see that the skepticism in Indian context, the critics, our own colleagues, peers in the conventional system, used to look at the distance education system, you as a colleague, faculty and me, what are you people doing there? There is no teacher, there is no classroom, what are you doing? So that from there, now coming and sharing view and trying to adopt each other is a long journey which we, and a gap which we bridged almost.
We can talk about the next generation.
Next generation, the fourth generation. What are the fourth model you call, the Taylor mentions is the flexible learning. From the tele-learning, it talks about the flexible learning model. It's where actually the interactive multimedia, and then of course by the time the internet is in a very advanced stage and World Wide Web is a big ocean, I think they are tapping this particular model. I think in few institutions in Australia and developed countries very extensively using this model, taking the computer mediated instruction and internet based on World Wide Web is really the thing of, I think if you ask in Indian context, I think maybe we are just entering, very few people are entering into that one. Maybe I think private institutions started doing it.
They have already
entered. I think this is a model, the fourth generation, maybe I think maybe within the coming few years we'll do it. And the last model is the fifth generation. He talks about the intelligent flexible learning model. The fourth one he titles as the flexible learning. It is intelligent. What the basic difference is, technologies is the same technologies. Here, this one is intelligent learning model is that a student is responded by the automated response system which is going to build into the technologies. Here, okay, the student is interacting in the fourth generation. Here, student will be getting the response, automated response systems, ARS, what they call it as is, which is built in for academic or for operational. The moment you put your problem into that one, automatically response should go there. I think that is the basic difference between the fourth and the fifth. Otherwise, all those things, internet and World Wide Web, computer mediated instruction is the same thing.
Here, in the fifth generation, you meant is that automated response
system is the significant feature added system. That one, which was not the case in the, maybe by that time the technology was not there for automated response system in the fourth generation. Yes. I think this is how, where we stand in the Indian scenario, maybe fourth and fifth generations, I think.
Well, we have come to the end of the discussion, and we hope that we will be entering to sixth generation of technology. By that time, we don't know what will be the definition of distance education and the transaction of learning experiences through distance learning system. But as on date, what we have at present, there are five generations of technologies in distance learning system which are governing the planning of distance education, curriculum development, curriculum planning, then
execution,
and curriculum transaction procedures. In this discussion, we started our presentation with definition or understanding of curriculum, different principles of curriculum development, then limitations of curriculum, then what are the merits of distance learning system in terms of curriculum development and curriculum transaction. Then broadly we focused our discussion on five generations of technologies which are governing or influencing curriculum transaction in distance learning system. And we had a very fruitful, effective discussion. And I
have one point, Professor Das, I think before we wind it up. I think this is really the, as you rightly said it, the influence of the curricular exercises in the distance education system will make really our colleagues, it's not that they should follow, but certainly they are bound to relook at their exercises if they really want to make the curricular exercise and achieve the objectives goal for that.
I thank you, Professor Murthy, for
thank you.
Presenting a very effective and fruitful discussion on this particular very relevant topic in the field of distance learning system. And I think that you have enjoyed our presentation and discussion.
I really enjoyed the, I think sometime technology will come to your rescue and technology will put you also in problem. I think today we could not present with the help of this thing, but certainly this forced us to really make it interactive, at least between two of us. I think we did it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
why are channels needed?
In this unit, we have touched upon the importance of behavior modification and how behavior modification is important in organizations, and how Maslow's, Herzberg's and expectancy theories have helped in behavior modification, and what are the different methods by which a behavior can be modified to bring about change, and the training format in industrial